I did. Just give you a heads up. If Senator Orrick hadn't talked so long a while ago.
I gotta say that for my people. Chairman, you're so kind.
Okay, we're gonna get started. Thank y'all for being here. We're sorry about the lateness and all that, but obviously everybody knows how important this is, and our schedule is kind of tight. So ideally, we will meet with y'all, finish this afternoon. We got 2 hours allotted, so hopefully it won't take it that long. But if it does, it does. If it takes longer, we will. And then Lindsay and I will work on this stuff after we get through. We've got our little Senate conference. The committee chairman meeting Monday morning. And so that's why the schedule is as tight as it is. So just kind of bear with us and we'll get through it. So the very first, we're going to go by our agenda. Oh, there you go. Okay, we got one more. Do you know if anybody you seen anybody else coming down the hall?
Larry Walker was here and then he left.
He has to present at the retirement committee.
And I just saw Donzella, but she was going to that committee.
Okay. Well, let us start. I'll open with a prayer, y'all, please. Lord God, we thank you that you are here with us today. We know that you're always in our presence, Lord, and we know that we get our guidance and wisdom and courage and moderation from you, and we thank you for that. Lord, just continue to help us watch and do the best for the great people of Georgia. In your son's name we pray. Amen. Okay, the first person on the agenda is decal. And we're all a fan of decal. Well, I better say we're a fan of all of these so I won't get in trouble if I forget about somebody.
We don't want you to get in trouble.
I don't want to get in trouble either. Oh, sorry. Are
Can you hear me? I'm on? Okay, great. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. In the interest of your time, I will just go over the decal-specific budget items and just skip the one-time $1,000 bonus, which our staff much appreciated, but I will skip that in the interest of time. So we start on page 2. Nutrition services, and the first item is 122.2.
It's going to be page 4 for us. We have different pages.
Hold on just a second.
Okay.
So we have different page numbers than they do because you have all these extra notes.
Okay.
So we'll just go by my number.
Okay.
Here.
Okay. Actually, on ours is page 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay. No problem.
Okay,
That's not you. That's
122.2.
us. That's us.
This is an increase of funds for startup funds.
I tell you, if you would
Yes.
just refer to line number, not page number, okay?
Okay, 122.2 is the item. Is that right? Is that what I'm working from?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Is that good? Okay. So on 122.2 is an increase in funds for startup funds to establish additional summer food service program meal sites in areas where we do not have meal sites. This is an addition of $100,000. This would allow DECAL to offer some startup grants to nonprofit organizations to serve meals during the summertime, which is part of our Happy Helpings program, which provides meals to school-age students when school is not in session and they don't have access to meals. The Senate added, I think it was about $300,000 back in FY22, and we had really good success with providing these startup grants, and we're able to serve 112,000 more meals in 27 additional counties that we had not served before. So this is an additional 100,000 to continue that process. The next item is in the pre-kindergarten program. It's 123.2. And this is an increase in funds for a computer refresh of $99,574. And this is to replace IT equipment for the 53 DECAL staff that support our Georgia Pre-K program, either through administration at my office or our specialists that work out with classrooms every day. We haven't had a refresh since 2019, so this would allow funding for that. The next item is 123.3. It's an increase in funds to reflect the correct employer contribution rate for SHBP, additional $1.3 million. Our Georgia Pre-K teachers that teach in public schools are on SHBP, and when the PM was increased last year, we weren't appropriated the right amount of funding, so this is literally just a true up. So they can pay their bills.
You mind doing me a favor?
Sure.
I'm from South
If you
Georgia.
say
I'm in South Georgia.
talk slower,
Talk
it's
a
going to be
little slower.
hard.
Yeah, please. Well,
I knew you were going to say that.
I
You
don't
said
have
that's
you
gonna
on.
be last time.
We don't have you on a time clock.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. 123.3.
123.3. So this is an increase in funds to reflect the correct employer contribution rate for SHBP. It's an add of about $1.3 million. About half of our Georgia pre-K teachers are in public schools and receive SHBP, and this is really just a true up from the increase that was included in the budget last year, so these public schools can pay their SHBP bill.
Thank you.
And the next item is 123.4. This is a change. The House made a change from the governor's recommendation. They added $8.9 million to maintain the current number of classrooms from our summer transition program, which is about 396 classrooms. Summer transition program is part of Georgia's pre-K program. It is a much smaller program, but we offer it in the summer for those students that need additional support either before they enter kindergarten or before they're entering Georgia pre-K. So this would allow us to continue that expansion that began a few years ago. And then the next item is 123.5. And this was added by the House to utilize existing lottery funds for 3 pre-kindergarten administrative positions. These would be positions that work directly at DECAL to help with some of our administrative functions. One would be a grants manager, one to assist with teacher credentialing, and one to help with our pre-K summer transition program, given the growth over the last few years.
And of course, this is allocated amount. This is not the full.
This is to
full
use,
year.
This would be for the rest of
3
this
months.
year. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
this is to use existing funds for that.
Yes, ma'am.
And those are all of our changes for the amended budget.
Right.
So that's
Is that last?
Yes, that's the last one.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. On the 123.4, and maybe you talked about this, how many, and of course I understand what the program, but how many additional classes would be added?
So there won't be any added. This would allow us to continue at the same rate as we funded last year, which were 396 classrooms.
Okay.
We were able to expand with some of the governor's gear money over the last 2 years, and obviously that money has gone away, and so we would need this additional $8.9 million so we wouldn't have to cut any classrooms.
How do you measure whether this is successful or not?
We have a report actually that shows it's just a 5-week program in the summer, and we actually have a report based on some formative assessments of children in that program that shows they make gains and they learn more from the time they start to the time they leave after 5 weeks. So it's a very successful.
These are a lot to do with English as a second language type
So
students?
Part of it is, so our Rising Pre-K program is for Spanish-speaking students. What our research shows us is they come way in behind their peers that are English speakers. They make great gains during their Georgia Pre-K year, but they're still leaving behind. So this gives them that 5-week boost before they enter Pre-K.
And it's just throughout all of Georgia, a portion
It is
of
not.
Georgia?
It is all over Georgia, but it's much smaller, obviously, than Georgia Pre-K, where we're in every county in Georgia. Again, we only have 396 classrooms, but it's spread out where the need is, and we have been able to expand over the last few years. But not every student needs that additional 5 weeks in the summer.
So how do you define where the need is?
Well, we do an application, first of all. We want to see where the interest is, and then we will do we work directly with current pre-K classrooms because they can identify those students for us if they have an interest in continuing into the summer.
Yeah, thank you. Sounded like you and I rehearsed that, didn't it?
Read your mind.
Senator Orrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. She just may be ready for any question we throw at her.
I don't know.
But again, on 123.4, 396 classrooms, out of how many classrooms do we have in the winter months? You know,
For Georgia Pre-K?
Yep.
So Georgia Pre-K, we have about 3,800 classrooms. So it's a much larger program than our summer transition program.
Yeah, it's like a percentage of a percentage of a percent,
Right,
300.
Yeah.
And what's the cutoff? Is this something we should be doing all over?
You know, not
Yeah.
every student needs that extra 5 weeks, so I don't think it would ever need to be as big as Georgia Pre-K. Right now, we are able to meet the need with the 396. If there were a reduction, we would have to cut about 100 classes from last year.
And how many counties are these in? I don't know.
I will have to get you the number. We have that, but I don't have that off the top of my head.
There's just some pattern in Georgia funding of programs where they do pilots and they do this little subset, and then it never grows out to?
So this is not a pilot. It's been around for 12 years, and we basically have to fund what we have funding for. So that's our limitation, is what we have funding for, is how many classes we can fund with our SDP.
And one classroom is, what's the dollar amount attached to one classroom?
$26,000, because it's only a 5-week class. So it's about $26,000 a classroom.
And so you do it by classroom, or do you, I mean, if there's some students that are not all grouped in one classroom during the school year, right?
Right, we fund it by classroom. The classes are much smaller than a Georgia pre-K class, which is 22 students. An STP class is either 14 or 16, just depending on the need and the type of classroom.
And the question is, so is it a subset of an existing classroom, or are students grouped from different places?
Not necessarily. It's what the students need. So it could be different students from different classrooms are coming to one program. Right.
And I think, if I could follow on another topic, Mr. Chairman, and that is the summer feeding program. These feeding sites are where you have to show up at a certain place and pick up the food or eat it there, and it's a meal. It's nothing more than a meal. It
is a meal. It is breakfast, lunch, or snack, depending on what the specific site decides to serve. In rural counties, you don't have to pick it up at the site. They will do it's federal term, non-congregate meals, where you can come pick it up and take it home. They might deliver it to you. There's been some flexibility in the federal regs since COVID, where it doesn't necessarily have to be at a site. There could be some delivery or pick it up and go type thing. So it's more convenient for families during the summer.
Yeah, because that's quite challenging,
Sure.
and particularly where there's not public transportation.
Absolutely.
Like we have in downtown Atlanta.
Right.
And where do you fit in with? I know that this has been talked about as that we're going to do this. We're not going to do the federal summer feeding program through the electronic benefits transfers.
So this provides meals in the summer. Last summer, we were able to serve 2.8 million meals through this program in about 100 counties across the state.
And I'm not going to break down the math or what that. The other program you're familiar with. Are you familiar with the program that was refused by the governor this year?
I'm familiar with it. Yes.
Yes.
But we don't administer that program.
That's right. But is this the program that is being referred to by the governor as what is?
I believe this is definitely part of the meal service that he's referred to that happens in the summer. The larger program is through DOE, which is Seamless Summer.
Which is?
Seamless Summer.
Seamless Summer, right. And again, these are showing up somewhere for a meal.
That is correct.
As opposed to the federal initiative through the Ag Department, as I understand
That's
it.
my understanding.
That puts $40
Right.
a month on
This is
a
different.
VAT thing for each child and a family. And so groceries are, it's paying the grocery bill for low-income families during the summer, or it adds to it. So that's a really different level of supplying nutrition to families in the summer, isn't it?
That is a different program. Yes.
Thank you.
Senator Barrett?
Thank you. Thanks so much, Commissioner Jacobs. So $26,000 for the 5-week class. That's to run the entire operation. Okay. And are we able to serve most of the kids that are applying?
Yes, for the most part. It's not like Georgia Pre-K where we have a huge wait list. We work with programs and parents and families to identify these kids so we kind of know what the need is. But we do not have a wait list. And so, yes, we are, for the most part, able to serve the kids that need it.
Great. What is our wait list this year for pre-K?
I think it's between 3,000 and 4,000.
Okay. And that's gone up a little?
It's gone up a little in the last couple of years, yes.
As far as, let me ask another quick question, and I'll be quiet. CAPS, one of my favorite programs. How many? There's nothing in the supplemental about CAPS.
No, only in the big budget.
Okay, so I'll wait till that hearing to really ask some more questions. But how many kids do we have in CAPS this year?
72,000.
72,000. And how many did we have in 2019?
We usually serve 50,000, so
Okay.
we were able to increase that with the COVID one-time dollars.
Which are lapsing.
In September.
Okay.
Yes.
So how much was that, just that 100 million that was able to get us up to 72? 1,000, or was it more than that?
It was more than that. I can give you the
Okay,
exact.
I'd love
I don't
to
have it
know
off the
that.
top
Okay.
because we did a lot of things with CAPS. We increased the number to 72,000. We also pay an additional tier rate if you're quality rated, and
Okay.
we're paying the full cost of care, which costs us $145 million a year. So that would be on top of that. So I'd have to get you those numbers, Senator Parent. I don't have those off the top of my head.
Okay, could you, when
Yes,
your
yes.
staff has a chance, I'd love to have this.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Yep.
Commissioner Jacobs.
Senator Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for sharing the information. I have one quick question. How are districts or schools or students chosen for the summer programs?
They're usually identified by their teachers because these are students that need extra help. And so they are usually identified by their teachers that they need an extra boost, or parents could contact us that maybe their child didn't find a spot in a Georgia pre-K class and they're interested as well. But we also advertise where those classes are going to be so they can reach out directly to those sites if they think their child needs that extra support in the summer.
And the reason I ask that is because I have some districts, believe it or not, that refuse everything. They do not want to participate in any kind of meaningful enhancement, academic enhancement for students. They tend to just, whatever happens in those 9 months, that's fine with them. But this is so important. How can we, and I don't know if we can do that, get those schools to understand the importance of these programs? And it's usually those districts that are low, but they just refuse help.
Well, I don't know if I have an answer to that question, but we're happy to talk with any school
help
district
me.
that's interested, and we have really good data to show how well the program works. I will tell you that it is a challenge in the summer to get teachers to work the extra 5 weeks, and most of our summer transition programs are in private child care providers because they run a 12-year calendar, so it's not as hard. We do have some public schools that offer the program, but we've had to be more flexible than we like to be, honestly. It used to be a 6-week program, and they said we can do it for 5 weeks, and so we tried to be creative and flexible so that they would continue to offer it. But our summer transition program is small classrooms. You've got 2 teachers, and we hire a transition coach that helps the parent with other services. So it's a really, really impactful program, and we're happy to meet with anyone if they need more information and maybe a little convincing. We're happy to try.
Can I meet with you at some point in time, talk about this? Because sometimes we make too many allowances for the grown-ups. The children are the ones that need, and they're the ones that are being impacted. And we understand that in some areas it's more difficult to find, but if we would just think outside of the box sometimes, we can find other ways of getting the curriculum, sometimes done better, okay? So I'll just, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
and we can
we'll follow
talk
up.
about it.
What about, you're talking about trying to get teachers to come back. What about retiring teachers? What about teachers that have been out for a while? Do we actively solicit those?
So we don't hire teachers at DeKalb. That's up to the programs that we fund.
But can we
so they
encourage
absolutely
those programs
can,
to do that? I mean,
Yeah.
as Senator Sims talking about, outside the box, thinking about trying to figure out, instead of saying we can't do it, why don't we find ways we can do it? And that's what that's kind of the way we've always practiced in the county. We try. If somebody says there's 9 ways not to do it, we find that 10th way to do it.
Right.
And I think that's what we're. So great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for
Yes.
being here. Thank you for hanging around.
You're welcome.
Okay. Department of Education. And again, let's go by line number, not by page number.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all for being here, and thank y'all for hanging around too. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Fortunately, we only have a
Would you
few
talk a little bit-
adjustments.
you talk a
We
little
only
bit.
have a few adjustments to
Yeah.
our FY24 amended Department of Education budget. First adjustment that the House made is line 136.2. This is a reduction of $90,000. This was a position for a completion special school manager, and this position doesn't start till March 1st, so these funds are just for that reduction. Savings, I guess. Next up, our next major change is 139.1. This is an additional about $1.6 million. This was the community and schools vendor request to the House, which adds 8 new districts and accounts for growth and within that program. And it's my understanding that there's also a match in giving these one-time funds. They're applying for a grant that will match these funds to enhance the program. And I've got a write-up I can share with Lindsay after this meeting.
Okay, great.
As well. Our next major adjustment is on line 151.10. This is in QBE. As you can see, there was an increase in funds for the Mountain Ed and the Coastal Plains as the establishment of a completion special school. The governor added $14.8 million. The House added another $8.6 million. The $14.8 million covered the FTEs only. The additional $8.6 million is also adding for T&E in the fund. Page,
19.
I have 16 on mine.
Oh, they had a bit of
151.1.
Mine is on page 15.
151.1.
Under QBE.
151.10. 10.
Yeah, 10.
151.10.
It'll be page 16 for you at the top. $151.10. Yes.
Yeah, 10. I'm sorry. Yeah, 10.
Mountain Education Charter High School and Coastal Plains.
And again, go back and tell about the purpose of this.
Yeah, this is for, these two were moved to a completion special school. And in the governor's recommendation was about $14.8 million, but that only included the FTEs. So the additional $8.6 million is to also fund them for T&E.
For the benefit package and all
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
exactly.
The additional funds are to fund how many?
For training and experience, the T&E formula portion of QBE, that was inadvertently, I think, left off. So this is to put that back in for those two schools.
Mhm. And then additional money actually is for the benefit package, benefits and all for those people. Yes, sir. We're ready.
All right. The last major change that we had is 158.2. This is an additional $980,000 to our testing budget. I know we had a little shortage in our hearing that I talked, I think, last month. But we actually got some better numbers in from College Board, and it looks like we had about a 19,000 increase in our AP pre-calc exams, which caused this increase. We did fund about $340,000 with our ESSER funds that we had initially estimated as an overage, but with this increase, it actually pushed it to about $1.3 million. So we'll be asking for $1.3 million for the 25 budget.
And that's 158.2?
Yes, ma'am. And that is all the changes that DOE.
So if you would go back to 139.1, I'm still
Okay.
not trying to be difficult, but a little bit fuzzy on the communities and schools.
Yes, sir.
And tell us how does that really benefit students?
So community schools is, I'll share this with you, it's right up. They work within the communities to keep kids in school. These are nonprofit organizations that get funding to help kids that are off track to stay in school. Currently, I believe the allocations are about, I don't have that ad, but with this new 1.6 million, this is going to allow them not only to add 8 new districts to fund these programs, but it's also going to allow to strengthen, giving some additional funds to some of these districts that are already utilizing these services.
Do we have any data that supports dropout rates before and after the community and school? Do y'all keep track of that?
We do. I can get that.
Can you
for
get that to,
Yes, sir.
get to this group? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I hope what you say.
No, I just.
Yeah. Senator Hort.
I have a
I
lot
was
of.
kidding you, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to say that I have a lot of familiarity with communities and schools. It started in my district in Atlanta decades ago. And my most recent experience is they expanded into McIntosh County with great success. And they were supported with foundation funds as well, and they worked closely. The superintendent in McIntosh was just over the moon that we got communities and schools into that county. And its success rate is well documented, and I know you all have data to support that. And they're just widely recognized as a high-quality program that, particularly rural schools. It started in an urban setting, but rural counties are welcoming with open arms. It spread out from Chatham and went the counties adjoining Chatham and got to McIntosh. So it's a school superintendent coping with challenging in a challenging setting is over the moon about getting that program in their county and in their school system. That's my experience, and I see some heads shaking here.
Senator Kirkpatrick.
Thank you. On 158.2, about the standardized testing, is that just AP or is that also ACT, SAT?
It's PSAT and AP combined. We're both short, but we were actually covering the shortage in PSAT with ESSER funds for 24, and so the 980 is actually funding the additional AP shortage. We had enough to cover PSAT shortage and AP in our ESSER funds for FY24 for 24, but with the additional pre-calc that came in above our estimate, we need the extra $980,000 for the AP.
Thank you.
So I guess in order to get the grant, these funds are required in the budget in order to get the grant. Because it's a.
Yes, sir.
I think that's what it says, like a 50% match or something like that.
Yeah, 50% match.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank y'all. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow.
Yeah, to wait on ERs because they're in the committee.
That's right. Oh, yeah. That's right, Skip. Now, if I had to say this is one of my favorite people, I'd have to say this is one of my favorite people. Governor's Office on Student Achievement.
You're talking about Lindsay. Everybody knows her.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, one of my favorite people and committee members. What can I say about that, right? That's right, yeah. So this will be very short. Our budget begins in 178.2. I'm sorry, 176.1 to 179.1 on the tracking sheet. And the governor's recommendation is under Georgia Awards, which is the general budget for GOSA, starting at 176.1. And so $135,000 for the licenses required for the expansion of our dashboards to include literacy rates, which as we know are defined, as well as workforce. Both are in development, and again, this is for the additional licenses that will be needed for that. Mm-hmm. So we're excited about that infusion. The others are the across the board. The House added in 178.2 and 178.3 increased funds for the Governor's Honors Program. So a small amount of $49,000 for technology for faculty. That's really laptops that would be needed during the semifinalists, which is coming up on February 24th down in Statesboro. And then an increase for rural participation of $15,000. We have spent a lot of time and effort, especially this year. We had the resource available to do this. There are 20 systems that have not nominated in the last 5 years. So we really focused on those in a strategic way. And of those, 4 have now made it to the semifinalists.
Great.
So we're really excited about that. And they're in a wide array of different subjects. So there's a music major, there's a STEM major, there's world languages, and there is, I believe, an ag major. I can get you the 4 counties, but we're super excited about the continued work there. And then obviously with those students from rural areas, we're spending a lot of time preparing them for the semifinalists and the auditions, working with former students from GHP. Open to any
Can I ask you just a
questions?
general question? I know that, and thank you so much for the Governor's Honor Program is now at Georgia Southern for the next 5 or 6 years. And one of the things y'all had an issue with was the nursing situation,
Right.
as far as the medication and all. And is that, I know you and I talked about it, you and I met with some people, but did all that get worked out and all?
You have been tremendous.
You don't need to say that.
The regional hospital, no, they, just this week, we got
That
really
was not
good news.
that was not an opportunity for me to get an accolade. I wouldn't. That was not a leading question.
The senator happens to serve on the board, which was very helpful. And we have now a contract with the hospital to provide those nurses. Our main concern was the liability insurance. So obviously, university didn't want to take that on. We cannot. And so the regional hospital really stepped up. And so it's going to be a great partnership.
So my question was on that. Was I was kind of leading it. Is any money in here for that, or are they
No.
doing it gratuitously?
Gratuitous.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I tell you what
Absolutely.
we learned through this process, which really disturbed me a lot, may disturb y'all a lot, that what percentage of those best and brightest students out of 700 students here were on some form of prescription medicine?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's high.
Like 70%.
About
70% of those kids, and that's the problem we ran into, was they all, as y'all well know, when they come in, check in, they have to turn in the medicine.
That's right.
And then they line up in the mornings.
The
and
line
it's-
was crazy.
So you take 700 kids, and 70% of them, that's 490 of them, or 500 of them.
And don't you wonder if that's a microcosm of the general population? And so let me clarify. There is money in the budget for the nursing contract,
Okay.
but the actual negotiation of the hospital working with us, it's no more. It's actually a lot less than what we were paying a private vendor.
Okay.
So we're very excited about the partnership.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for your
Any
time.
other questions?
Any questions by anybody? Please. How you doing?
I'm sorry, I had retirement next
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Board of Regents. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I have to send apologies from the Chancellor. He was actually scheduled to be here, but unfortunately his schedule today was tight, so you got me. For those that don't know me, I'm Tracy Cook, Chief Fiscal Officer at the University System of Georgia.
Could you pull that a little bit closer to you? There you go.
Is that helpful?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I provided the committee members with a one-pager I thought was more helpful to go through. Our budget actually starts
Yeah.
on...
Will you hold on just a second?
Okay.
Like that.
If not, I can work through the document if it's... This one, right? That's it. That's it. That's
Everybody
it.
got one?
The reason I do that, it's
That's it,
easier.
right? Okay.
We have about 19 programs, and I think most of the programs only have the one adjustment for the $1,000 supplement. So I thought it was easier to maybe put it all on a one-pager, and then we can reference it that way. So what I wanted to do is start with, 276.1 all the way to 290.1, right? If you were to go through all of those pages, each program has the $1,000 supplement. That totals about $50.4 million. That's being recommended by the House to support the $1,000 payment that has already been made to our employees. And again, I think Amy said it well. You know, our employees definitely appreciate that enhancement. I mean, it really goes a long way from a morale perspective as well as an economic perspective. So that was really the one adjustment that affects all programs. So then I'll shift to the next item, which is for our research, Georgia Research Alliance, which is 281.2. And if I can give a page reference just to kind of, let's work from the one pager. So basically, these funds are to support, this $9.25 million in the budget to support 6 eminent scholars and 6 distinguished investigator endowed chairs in varying disciplines. These would happen at Georgia Tech and at AU. The budget also includes $250,000 for collaboration between UGA and Georgia Tech for the development of a product to monitor poultry health and welfare. So that's the $9.25 million on 281.2.
Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Here we go.
And I know Tim Denning is here. If there are any specific questions related to that, he's here and can provide additional context. Unless the committee wants, I was very mindful of Lindsay. She talked about, looking at the significant items. I'm going to shift all the way down midway on the sheet, the $66 million. And if there's any of the smaller items that you want me to address, I'll be happy to do so.
No, we're fine.
On 290.2, that's the workload increase. Last year, you might remember, our budget was reduced by $66 million. And this is the restoration of those funding, those state funds for our institutions. So those would be extremely helpful. Formula funds are really the lifeblood of how we fund our institutions, and so that would be helpful to stay in. So the total increase being recommended is $124.4 million across all of the programs. Again, the largest pieces being the $1,000 pay supplement, the $66 million for the restoration of the funding, and the $9.2 million for GRAs. The second page, and I'll only talk about it if you want, this is not in the higher ed tracking sheet. I wanted to be mindful. Many of you have heard there's $50 million and $178 million in the budget. These are funds on the behalf of the University System of Georgia. They are with GSFIC, but I did want to bring it to everyone's attention. The 50 million, the 178, I'll start with that, is for the dental school, to expand dental school. As you know, Augusta University has a dental college currently in Augusta on that campus. These funds would provide for a new facility located in Savannah on the Georgia Southern campus, again, but under the accreditation of Augusta University. And so once this is all set up and we have a full cohort, this would provide for an additional 200 dentists or students in the program. I'll just give a few stats, and I know some of you may have heard the chancellor speak about this, but we currently rank 46 out of 50th for general and advanced practice dental providers per 1,000. Only Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, and Delaware rank worse than us, and so we have to do better. The majority of our counties, 136 of the 159 counties, are designated dental health professional shortage areas, so not enough to service. So I think this will be a great program, great expansion to get more students in the program. The other item that we thought would be helpful to mention is the $50 million. This is another one. This is really towards the design and construction for a new medical school at UGA. This item This would be a brand new school. We estimate that the facility would be about $100 million, and so it would require private funds. There's a long way to go. There's a whole approval process that has to take place to get the school accredited. But again, when you look at the stats and we look at the needs for physicians across the state of Georgia, dire need, we really could use additional physicians across the state. So really hopeful that these funds too stay in the budget. And the last one I'll mention on here, this is in the Georgia Technology Authority budget. Again, not in our budget, but funds on the behalf of the University System of Georgia. And this is really for technology empowerment in the Technology Empowerment Fund. The purpose is to provide funding so that we can improve our ERP system for financials, human resources, and student. And our systems are, at most institutions, about 20 years old. They are very antiquated. It's really hard to keep up. Sometimes when we get requests, they're very disparate. And so we're looking to have one unified system. I think it's going to be a better experience for our students, and then a better experience for data reporting and decision making as well. So we know the state is going through this right now. They're looking at a new system, and so these funds would help us get started in that path as well. And then finally, I know the Chancellor wanted to provide 2 updates to the committee. If I might do that. If you want, I can pause and take any questions on the budget first.
Would you go on down to also talk about the highlighted ones here too?
Absolutely.
Please, before we get it.
So the House added, for our fiscal year 25 capital request, we had roughly $33 million in equipment funds for institutions as well as the GRA. Those are in the budget. Normally, the equipment is the last, so the facility has already been built or is in the process of being constructed. And these are the funds that would furnish and equip the facilities. These are a part of our 25 requests, and the House has pushed them back to fund them through the amended budget. And that's about $33 million.
Okay. And now you can address what you're talking about.
All right. So the 2 items.
And can we wait till she gets through with this? Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Just 2 quick items. The Chancellor wanted to provide an update on the electronic medical records, as well as the Augusta University WellStar partnership.
Thank you.
So I'll start with the electronic medical records. So the state, as you know, provided $105 million in the amended 23 budget to implement the state-of-the-art electronic medical record system in support of medical education and training at the Augusta University Medical College of Georgia. So rather than, what we didn't do was transfer the full $105,000 to the new partner.
Million.
I've been doing this all day. Thousands, millions, billions. My apologies. $105 million. We entered into agreement back in April, whereby we would transfer. AUHS would install and implement the system, but we set up the agreement that we would reimburse expenses as opposed to fronting the money. So that AUHS, now WellStar, we're in that agreement, and we can validate all the costs that are incurred by WellStar to make certain that we're paying for things that in support of this project. So we did sign the agreement back in April, but the project really got started when the transaction closed, which was in the late August timeframe. So WellStar has procured some of the Epic licenses for the initial launch, but they do expect to have it totally completed and implemented by September of 2024. So the project is on track. We want you to make certain that you know that. But to date, we have only reimbursed $3.2 million to WellStar, but we know that that's going to pick up as the implementation moves forward, and we hit our September date.
And they've got an outstanding invoice for about $14 million.
Yeah.
That's going to be, okay.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
Moving to the Augusta University WellStar partnership. So the partnership is delivering results. It's a good thing, as we expected, by putting these 2 entities together. The health system in Augusta is already realizing positive financial results. We're seeing 2.6 positive margin as of the December close, so that's a good thing. The organizational changes to streamline processes are in place. That's happening, and improve patient access as the backlog to get patients scheduled has reduced cancellations. So all positive trends. Briefly on the Columbia County Hospital, just to give an update on that. It is on schedule to open in 2026. They have secured financing this past fall. The site preparation and the foundation work is underway, planning to raise the first beam by the end of this month.
Wow.
And topping off ceremony, begin planning for late spring. So more to come on that. So that project is moving forward. And then lastly, discussions are underway to identify and move forward on opportunities for Wellstar to expand. We talked about that before, expand the reach and scope of Augusta University's academic and training programs across the state. I'll just mention a few specifically at the Wellstar Kennestone Regional Medical Center in Marietta, the Hull College of Business, which is connecting Wellstar and healthcare management, the School of Computer and Cyber Sciences and Medical College of Georgia connecting with Wellstar and telehealth and healthy system cyber security. Augusta University Online, providing professional certifications and advanced degrees for Wellstar employees throughout the state. So a lot of activity going on. So Chancellor just wanted to make certain he provided that update. So I did that on his behalf.
Good. Thank you. Senator Sims.
Thank you for bringing us this information. Something that we've not touched on at all, but I'm going to. As an 1890s land grant institution, there's been much discussion around the amount of monies that are owed to Fort Valley State University, which is my alma mater. These monies supposedly owed by the state, which was widely publicized a few months ago and probably sometimes last year. As an alum for decades, or as alumni, we've been very patient, very respectful, and now we're very anxious about these funds. So can you give us any insight as to how they're going to be dispersed? Because the amount is massive. So we know that you're not going to drop these amount of dollars on us at once. Are there any strategic plans in the works as to how these dollars will be given to us?
So I'm going to start with the requirement is that the state provides a 1-to-1 match for federal funding that is provided to our land grant universities. We are doing that. So if you look in the budget, and that's one item I didn't talk about, but if you go back to your sheet, this is line 290.3, you can see the Fort Valley land grant is $823,000, just rounding. So what that means is to date, right, for fiscal year 24, Fort Valley now has grants amounting to $8.79 million. And so for the last several years, we have made certain that the state has provided its 100% share match, 1-to-1 match. And so the ask this year, currently, they have $7.9 million in the budget for this purpose. This $823,000 would make them whole and would bring us back to the 1-to-1 or 100% match. The piece that came out is really, it's a different logic, right? So that's the requirement. The requirement is that the state provides a 1-to-1 match for the federal funds provided to Fort Valley, and so that is happening. What the piece was saying is it was trying to compare funding per FTE for two universities, UGA and a Fort Valley. So that is really outside of what this match requirement entails. We know that all of our institutions, the funding per FTE is not the same for all institutions. It does matter if you're teaching more associate degrees, if you're teaching bachelor's, if you're teaching doctorate, right? Those programs are more expensive. So every institution's funding per FTE is different, and I think what that calculation did is it tried to say one institution's funding per FTE is X. If Fort Valley's was X too, we would have to pay an additional sum of money.
So it's like a weighted kind of match. Okay, but the articles or the information that has been out there is over years of not making that match. Now, I mean, how do we explain that?
So the match, I submit.
And I guess this probably is going to take much longer than the time we have today to talk about it. But is there a time where we can sit down and talk about this? I mean, I'm tired of the phone calls because they figure, you're here, you're supposed to know something. I know nothing. And I really would like to have the conversation so that alumni is clear about it. The state is clear about what their obligations are. The federal government, I don't know where to begin, but it's a lengthy process, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I would
So
love to set up
at
a
some
meeting.
time, I would like to come and along with others, because I can't do this by myself.
Okay.
But I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Kilpatrick.
Thank you very much. My district has KSU, the new STEM unit, and every one of my districts is very excited about that new building, so thank you very much for that. The information that you provided about the Wellstar deal, which is all we talked about last year at this time,
We did.
is that somewhere in the information that you gave us?
It is not, but we can share it with, we'll
If you
send it
could
to
send
Lindsay.
that would be great.
No,
Absolutely.
Senator, we just thought that'd be great information for this committee. It's not a part of it. We just thought it'd be great information for us to know since we did spend so much time on it last year.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to track deals that we make and see how they're doing. And then one question about the EPIC, the electronic medical record transition. I didn't understand what you said about getting some of the licenses, because normally when we switched EMRs in my large orthopedic group, it's I understand there's a process where you have to be set up and ready to go, but the licenses, I mean, how can you have part of the licenses? You need all the licenses to be able to flip that switch and make that transition. So how's that
I can
working?
get you more kind of on how the implementation is working and how the payments are flowing. So it was really about the payments to date. So those are the ones we've procured. But I can get you more on how, we're going to get all the licenses that are required in order to implement the EPIC system in full. But what we've paid for to date versus what's required, there's more to come, if you will.
Okay,
So, but
if you could
we can get you a timeline.
Yeah, if you can get some more information about all of that, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Orr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my colleague may have asked the core question that I was going to raise as well, and that is an accounting, the detail on Wellstar that, closed up 2 hospitals over here in Atlanta. They brought, what, 800, how many, $840 million something dollars to the deal in Augusta?
797
Yeah, I was going to say it's way more.
797 million capital. So I'd love an itemization of that deal, and essentially the same thing that the chairman and Senator Kirkpatrick have asked for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, on the, not to be labor point, and not trying to beat something to death, but on the $66 million cut, how was that spread among, how did y'all decide which schools had to cut and which schools did not, or what the percentages were and that type of thing?
So we didn't do across the board, right? It was really hard for some of our smaller schools, and we relied more on our research institutions to bear more of the brunt. I can send you the chart. It was in the board materials, so you can see how it was spread. But definitely our research institutions took more of the cut than some of our smaller institutions.
So in taking the cut, how did that affect things? They still kept the lights on and all that kind of stuff. So
some relied a little bit on their reserves. We talked about the reserves. Some, fortunately, were growing, so they had new revenues coming in. But that starts to catch up. Those new revenues really should be to invest in new faculty, staff to support new students. So it's kind of a timing. But they're going to have to make some. If the funds don't come back, they're going to have to make some permanent decisions about size of staffing and faculty to support student levels.
We're very proud of the match program, and we know that a couple of schools, they don't understand, but the schools that are involved in are excited about it. Can you just elaborate in a minute or two about what all was going on with that for you?
Yeah, I don't have numbers.
No, I don't-
'cause
I didn't
Scott's not
expect- I
here,
didn't ask
but
you to do that,
We've been
just-
having budget hearings. The chancellor has hearings with all of the presidents, and so we've heard from about 13, and almost all of them have said this is really a game changer. They are seeing more applicants. They're getting a lot of clicks. There's a follow through. So a lot of them are ahead on applications, and we think, we don't know for certain, but we think a lot of it is because of the match program and the kids availing themselves to the information. So we're hopeful that a lot of these students that would have never thought that they could attend college will show up.
And I'm sure, Commissioner Judge, I'd like for you to address that also when time comes. Okay.
But yeah, very positive. We're hearing very positive stories from our institutions.
I know the ones I've talked to, they've been very excited about it, and then also the students that have received it have been very excited that they got this, got accepted, or whatever the letter went to them, or whatever happened. They were excited about it.
That's good. I hadn't heard it from the student perspective, but yeah, I would imagine.
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excited. So thank y'all for doing that. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Oh yes, ma'am. Hold on. Number 12.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It is, I know that I've had an opportunity to speak with the Chancellor when we had our opening budget hearings on King Week. And there's the ability to collect data on this and learn going forward, how many students take us up on the direction provided and who drops off the radar screen, and starting to understand the different conditions that could account for that. Going forward, I think you all have plans to
track, absolutely.
To really get some good information that will, give some guideposts to us about how to just continue to ramp up the numbers of students that we can get
Absolutely.
in post-secondary opportunities.
But data for a purpose, yeah.
Exactly.
This is going to be good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day. Now, y'all don't have to leave. But I know you want to. Thank y'all. Appreciate everything. The next one on the agenda is, let's go back, because I see that the employee retirement system people have come in. So let's jump back to them. We skipped over them because they were not here. So we will not consider you tardy. Jim, come up. Jim, what we've asked people to do is just give us the line numbers, and not the page numbers, but line numbers.
Okay. So I am beginning on section 25, line 160.1.
Hold on just a second. We got to go backwards.
Pardon?
Right here?
160.1, section 25.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay.
The crowd is thinning out bad, isn't it?
I can clear a room, can't I?
Yeah. I hate for the Georgia Research Alliance, it's going to be the last 3 or 4 here. Okay, ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have 4 programs that are outlined in the document. All of them, the House and the Governor's recommendations are the same. To go through them, 160.1, the deferred compensation program, is basically self-funded out of the plan. We're at about $5.2 million for this fiscal year, but all of that comes out of fees and forfeitures that occur in the course of operating the plan. The Georgia Military Pension Fund is the small supplemental pension fund for Air and Army National Guard folks in the state. That is funded by the state. We receive a direct appropriation of the ADEC, or the actuarial contribution, from the state in this process. This year's number, or next year's number, is $2.79 million. Similarly, the public school employees retirement system, this is the retirement system for bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and custodial staff in the schools. They also are funded via direct appropriation from the state, and the number this year is $32.36 million. And finally, system administration. Our operating budget is largely taken from the trust fund itself, subject to the approval of the board, so we don't ask for much in the way of direct appropriations. In most years, there's a small $10,400 appropriation so that I can fulfill my responsibilities as the state Social Security Administrator. The rest of it generally comes out of the ERS and the other trust funds. However, there are two extraordinary items in this year's budget proposal. One is $26.75 million. This is equal to an amount that we received in FY23, which the board used to provide one-time payments to all eligible retirees. And by eligible retirees, I mean those who are eligible to potentially receive a COLA. This is not all retirees. Those who are retired who were hired after July 1 of 2009 are not eligible for this, but all other ERS retirees are. So we took that $26.75 million and essentially paid a flat one-time amount to each retiree and beneficiary, with some exceptions that came out to $538 per person. So the 26.75 is there again in this year, and we're looking at a way to redistribute it.
It's in the inside.
I'm sorry, this is line 163.1.
So he's right. He's right.
Okay, so you see a number under total state funds, 26.7604000. That includes the 10,000 I mentioned. So the 26.75 is the amount intended for some kind of post-retirement adjustment this year.
So Jim, so the 26.75, that's kind of like what it was last year. We put the money in, so that's you said $538.
That's what we were able to do last year. That's correct, yeah.
So that is in these numbers for this year?
Correct.
Okay, in addition to the next number?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We may not do exactly a flat amount. We're trying to make sure that we're distributing it as efficiently as possible, but that's the idea.
I didn't realize that. Thank you.
And then, yes, 163.1 also includes the $500 million proposed infusion that the governor and the House have agreed upon at this point. That money is intended as a boost to the funding position of the system, as a way to begin to pay down, or to continue to pay down, some of the unfunded liability that we have. $500 million would provide an increase in the funded ratio of the system of about 2.5%. For some context, that's about 9% of the unfunded liability that we currently have that would be taken care of by this. It would also be equivalent to the largest year-over-year increase in the funded position of the system since at least the late 90s. So this is a significant step for us. The idea is to get us as quickly as possible to a funding level of 80%. At that point, the formulas that we have in place to provide COLAs to our retirees would automatically improve the way that they're set up. And so this would be a way to get us to a little bit better place from a COLA perspective that much quicker.
And the number that I've seen in order to get to the 80% was about $1.5 billion, I believe.
That's the total.
And
correct.
so this represents 1/3 of that if we can keep it going.
For now, I mean, we're having a pretty good investment year this year, so if that keeps up, we'll be able to help. Obviously, I cannot make any promises along those lines, but there are some outside forces that work that are going to move that number.
I've been told that if somehow this money was allocated to the various departments or something like that, there may be some leverage of money with the federal government. Are you familiar with anything like that?
I'm really not. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I might have read it somewhere. I saw something like that somewhere.
That sounds like a question for OPP. I don't have any knowledge of funding sources in that way.
Okay, good thing. I am not surprised about this person asking the question, Senator Orrick. Now, I'm just talking about on retirement.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your strong and deep interest and understanding of the topic, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
We discussed this in passing in the lightning speed, less than 3 days. It has 2.5 days that we spent on the state budget during King Week. I would find it helpful to know how many states in the country are funding their have their unfunded liabilities covered by 80%, 75%, 95%, and 100%. Because I understood from you that day in that in the big budget hearing that there are how many states in the country that are funded at 100%?
It's relatively few. I'd say this many or less. I don't
Well,
know the
that's
exact
what you
number.
said the last time. Just say it out loud.
5 or less.
Yeah, 5 or less.
And at 100.
They're at 100%.
That are at 100%. So if you could get for us the table that shows that by state what level their unfunded liability is at, because it's my understanding that when you are saying that we're really not free to give cost of living back to our retirees, our state retirees that worked all their lives for us delivering these services and had their COLAs cut out. That was very, very close to the time that we started saying we had to have 100%, reach 100% of our unfunded liabilities. We had to get to 100% in eradicating it.
I think that is a worthwhile long-term objective, yes.
Right. So that would be helpful, I think, to those of us on the committee to see a chart that shows the states and where we stand relative to all the other states. If there are only 5 or less that have that target, that would be very important information for us to have our arms around.
I can tell you right now that the median funded ratio in the U.S. is roughly 76%.
Mm-hmm.
I would also caution you against an over-reliance on the funded ratio as being the last word on where a system is from a funding perspective.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I would point out to you is the amount of our payroll, our retiree payroll right now, is a relatively large percentage of our asset base. So our cash flow, which is basically contributions in minus benefits being paid out plus expenses, is at a lower negative level than many of our peer states are because we have a relatively small asset base compared to our retiree base. So that's a long-winded way of saying when we have a negative investment event and the markets recover, we are slower to recover because we're paying out these larger benefits continuously. And this is why I feel like we need to get to a point where we can look and say, we've got a little bit of a cushion against one of those market events so that we don't get ourselves in a position where I'm coming to you and saying, yeah, now we need a contribution rate of something much higher than where we're at right now. I've raised the contribution rates enough. I'd like to take a pause on that.
Well, the one other thing I would add is that one kind of irrefutable fact about retirees is that they are approaching the age at which they will pass along.
Yes, ma'am.
And they fall off the rolls. We no longer have a living person to issue a check to. So that's part of the reality about this. And those folks are doing very poorly when they don't have a COLA for a decade. And their last years are not happy years. So that's another number.
Yes, it is.
And another reality in this picture. So
Yep.
we'll look forward to that kind of charting that you can provide for us on where we stand relative to other states.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Chairman.
to see you, sir. Let's see. Commission on Holocaust. I'm trying to figure out where it comes from. You come from this way. I was just figuring you come from that way.
Sciatica's bothering me from
Yeah. If y'all would introduce yourself, please. Thank y'all for being here.
Yeah, thank you. For those of,
Would you hold on just a second?
Sure.
until she gets- I won't sit it already have before the We will need her full attention. She knows I love her.
Okay.
You got the floor.
Thank you. For those of you who I've not met, my name is Chuck Burke. I'm the board chair of the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust.
Thank you.
So the reason I'm here is to talk to you about the Anne Frank Center for Education and Responsibility. The events of the past year, and especially the last few months, have brought into focus the importance of having a facility that teaches Georgia citizens to stand up against hate and racism and anti-Semitism. And as Governor Kemp said the other day, there's no place for hate in this great state.
Right.
So now we feel strongly that the time is right for us to build this educational center, which will provide Georgia's students, citizens, the new and innovative ways for us to teach about what hate can do. In 2018, I don't know how many of you were, I know Senator Orrin was here, but 2018, they passed SB 356, which instructed the Georgia Commission to design and place a Georgia Holocaust Memorial in a prominent location. And as such, over the last few years, we have been working on this Anne Frank Education Center, which will provide the necessary programming, resources, exhibitions, workshops geared to Georgia's teachers, students, law enforcement, military, and community organizations, and help us to remind us of our roles and responsibilities to safeguard our democracy. So what's the status of this now? We have planned 7 world-class exhibits in partnership with the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam. One of those, the specific Anne Frank exhibit, we will be designed by the Anne Frank House. We'll be the only people, or one of the only people in the world will have this exclusive exhibit. Another one is about old Georgia liberators and survivors. One of those that we're going to feature is an African-American, William Alexander Scott III. He happens to be Alexis Scott's father, who was a very prominent person. He was a sergeant in World War II. He came upon the Buchenwald concentration camp, saw all the atrocities that was there, but he was also a photographer. And he was one of the people that memorialized and took a lot of the pictures that all of us unfortunately have seen over the years of what happened in those concentration camps. And so one of the reasons we want to feature him also is we get a lot of students coming in from the African American, the Hispanic communities. They identify with this 14-year-old girl in Anne Frank, but they also now will see William Alexander Scott III, and they realize they're going through some things themselves. This helps them to open up and start talking about a lot of these issues. Another exhibit that we have is one that's going to be made for us by the Steven Spielberg Shoah Foundation out in California. It's an amazing exhibit. Now, a few years ago, Senator Kirkpatrick was very helpful in getting us to set up the exhibit that's downstairs in the Capitol right now. We had 5 survivors actually at that when we launched that back in 2020. Unfortunately, 4 of those 5 have now left us. There's only one of them who is still surviving. The most impactful learning that a child can get, or anybody can get, is by talking directly to a survivor and asking them questions and then getting the answers. Unfortunately, very soon, all of them are going to be gone. This exhibit is an amazing technology. I couldn't begin to explain how they do it, but it's through the AI and virtual reality. We'll be able to have a big TV screen up there, like a 90-inch TV screen. We'll have a survivor on that screen, and you'll be able to talk directly to that survivor and ask them whatever questions are on your mind and have them answer your questions. It's amazing. I guess the point I want to make is these will be world-class exhibits. So where are we with it? We've been working with the city of Sandy Springs. They've been running into a number of delays. That's why it's taken us a while to get this off the ground. Now we are looking at some other properties for lease or sale. Hopefully we'll get those negotiated in the next few months. But what we're looking for, and by the way, all of that is going to be paid for with private funds. What we're respectfully requesting from the state is that Georgia provide $3 million, the funds necessary to pay for these exhibitions, these educational exhibitions in the Anne Frank Center. That will allow us to get this wonderful exhibit and center opened up in 2025. What kind of an impact is this going to have? Well, we currently, through a very limited staff, Sally Levine, the executive director, and a couple of people travel all over the state providing this kind of education, and they each year they train over 250 teachers, which reaches about 25,000 students. We anticipate that this new center will attract between 25 and 30,000 people a year. Now, is that a realistic number? I was in Chicago this summer, and I visited a comparable center that they have set up there. They have 70,000 students go through there every single year. Now, I don't know if we'll get 70,000 students, but we'll be able to get a very significant number. So I think it'll be very impactful. The other thing that it'll do is, you know, when you have all these people coming in, and it won't be just be from Georgia. We'll have people coming in from probably all over the Southeast, because this is going to be, you know, an attraction. We anticipate it'll add at least $500,000 in additional hotel, restaurant, and retail sales. So before I turn it over to our Representative Silcox, we know this type of education is effective, and its profound impact on the values and the beliefs of students. It teaches empathy and encourages engagement in our democracy. And by bearing witness to the past, these events of today, you can look through it through the lens of history. The center is going to provide strategies for addressing hate, for addressing racism, for addressing anti-Semitism, so people become, as they say, upstanders rather than bystanders. So now is the time, we believe, for us to make this impact in this center. And I'd like to turn it over to Representative Silcox, who not only is a great representative, but she also is a citizen member of the Holocaust and has been a great advocate for all the things that we do on a daily basis.
Thank you, Ms. Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. Honestly, if I never do anything else in the state legislature, if we could accomplish this, I think it would make a huge impact on our students and our future leaders in Georgia. This is, I think, a golden opportunity, like Chuck was referring, with the signing of the anti-Semitism bill, with the unfortunate attacks on October 7th, for Georgia to stand for the right things, to stand against hate, to stand in favor of democracy. And so I will say that our original request was $4 million, and I did meet with Chuck and I both met with Director Dunn yesterday, and he said specifically that the governor was interested in funding the exhibits only. So we are reducing our original request from $4 million to $3 million to fund the exhibits. And would appreciate your every consideration. Like I said, I think this is a really special opportunity that could bring people to Georgia from all over the world. I think being the home of Martin Luther King, this plays right into that, and could be a major attraction and a center for economic development, as well as the development of our youth and our values that we hold so dear in the state. So would appreciate your every consideration.
Thank you. Let me ask you a couple of questions. We were in Amsterdam a couple of years ago, and the line was so long at the Anne Frank House. I mean, it was forever and ever and ever.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was like days. We just couldn't get it. So, very, very impressed. One of our questions, I'm sure, is about the location and so forth and so on. And, of course, I know y'all been struggling with the Sandy Springs and thought you had it, didn't have it, back and forth. You obviously need to nail this down. How close are we to nailing something down?
Well, the commission has located 2 sites, and we, of course, didn't anticipate the governor's disregard in the summer. Kind of threw everybody off a little bit, but they regrouped in the fall and decided to move away and be independent of the city. And instead of having a lease situation like we had last year, Chairman Hickman, this would not be a lease situation where the state would be obligated ongoing. This would be a one-time funding for the exhibits themselves. And there are two locations. One is close to City Springs. It's a former bank building. It's very well located and would be very, very great potential. The other one's in the Peachtree Dunwoody area, close to Perimeter Mall, that would also be in Sandy Springs, but very visible as well. So we are in negotiations with those entities, and like Chuck said, the acquisition cost would be paid with private funds. This would just be for the exhibits.
Thank you. Senator Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have a line item? I mean, did the governor put any money in the budget? Or is this an ad put in?
The House put $2 million.
Okay, two.
Right.
Okay, it says increased fund for the.
Right, that's Senator Kirkpatrick.
293.3. 293.3,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Senator Kirkpatrick is correct, but
The reason,
Senator Walker, the House put in $2 million because our original request was $4 million, but like I said, we're reducing that to $3 million because we were informed that he wanted to fund just the exhibits.
And I think the original request was y'all think about the original request being used for the construction or the facility?
And
so you kind of reversed your thought process.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, the reason I asked, and this, I don't want to equate what I'm talking about with the significance of what you're working on and the serious nature of it and all that, but I've put money in more than once for the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame, which is a state authority, so to speak. I mean, it's in the code that we have one, and the governor has always struck that. And then, of course, last year we put money in for the Music Hall of Fame, and that got struck. And I've always been told by the governor's office that they are not interested or going to fund any kind of museums or halls of fame or I just wonder if you're saying you have assurance, but that's not been my experience in the past.
I think, and I appreciate your concern, and I will say that because this is focused on education, I think it's being looked at differently. It's an education center as opposed to a museum.
Well, I would argue the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame's about that too, and we have a great history of aviation.
I would be happy to support.
We have heard the same thing, and so we've heard the same thing, and so that's why it's made very clear to us that the governor does not have any interest in building and being responsible for facility. But what he would be responsible for is providing the educational exhibits and those kinds of things. That's the difference in what we're asking about.
Let's see, Senator Parent? Okay, Senator Kilpatrick.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
You did.
So you probably already know that Senator Harbison and I are the Senate liaisons to the Commission on the Holocaust. And so this has been going on for some years now, ever since the commission lost their lease, basically, to their old space that they were occupying in Sandy Springs. And during that time, it's been amazing to watch the board raise all this private money for this building. And I understand that the governor doesn't want to get involved in the real estate aspect of it, but the exhibits that are being contemplated are really quite special and really going to put Georgia on the map on this particular subject. So I'm in full support of it, and I appreciate y'all bringing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Senator Kirkpatrick.
Senator Walker again.
I know I sound like I'm not supportive, but I am. I just, have you all considered asking, if it's going to be in Sandy Springs, do they have a hotel motel tax?
Yes, they do. As a matter of fact, up until COVID, they were providing us with some funds on an annual basis. And now that the hotels and motels are coming back, they've also offered us, once we get going here, they'll also offer us some additional funds. That's primarily, though, for in operating, because it helps to provide people on the floor, be able to be docents, and to be able to take care of people when they come through.
And that's nowhere near the amount that we're asking for, Senator Walker.
And I can tell you that the amount that, now we're going to go for more, but the amount that they previously were giving us was $50,000 a year.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Horton.
Thanks. I just clarification. This is in the, you got it in the amended budget, which
Correct.
that had been a question of mine earlier when we spoke about it.
Yes, ma'am.
Before today's hearing. So it isn't. It is moving right along. I just wanted to share that the King Memorial and that whole property that is in my district and has 1 million visitors a year.
Wow.
And which goes to your point about what a strong magnet this can be, along with synchronized with the federal King property and the tourists that come there for education worldwide. So I think it's gonna. All the stars are lined up for this to be a game changer.
One of the things that we have talked about with the marketing people in Sandy Springs is that they feel that they can sell out by having a ticket that will take people from our facility to the King facility to the Bremen Jewish Museum and line those things up. So we want to work together with the rest of them to help each other out.
Thank y'all for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. Georgia Public Telecommunications. That's dangerous.
Right, I think so too.
That's dangerous.
Good evening. I'm Bert Wesley Huffman, CEO of GPB, Georgia Public Broadcasting. I'm glad to be here and thankful for your support of the great work that we do.
What line? Tell us what line.
So
number
we're going
are
to
we
go
on?
to line. Well, I have two for you. Line 296.1 is just the $1,000 salary supplement for full-time employees. 296.2. That's to increase funds. It's from the House for an update to our Georgia Stories video series. You may be familiar with the work that GPB does in digital education across the state of Georgia. 12 million clicks to gpb.org last year for those educational materials, and 2 million of them were for this 133 video series called Georgia Stories, and it traces the unique history of Georgia through archival film and photographs, also interviews with notable Georgians. It was created in 1994, so it is out of date, 30 years out of date. And
so it has not been updated since then?
No, sir, it has not. And so we're just looking for the...
That's a lot,
Yeah.
So a lot of history since 1994. So we're looking for the $300,000 to redo that project.
Senator Sims.
I love it. I love that idea because I'm just a history buff. Can't remember half of it, but I love it. And especially for children, how participatory, I guess, are our schools throughout the state? Are they good?
Yeah, they're very
How about
good.
my schools in Southwest Georgia? They drag.
Well, we try to take care of them. We have a digital outreach specialist that go to all counties in Georgia, so we have participation from all counties in Georgia.
Is the participation fairly decent?
I don't know the exact number, but I can certainly find out.
We're going to find out.
Yes, ma'am.
Find me and tell me so I can fuss at them. Thank you.
Any other questions? I see none. Thank you, sir.
All right,
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Sir. Wow. You think you next? You are next. Come on up. We can't have a little fun. We don't need to be here.
That's right. A few laughs goes a long way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. A pleasure to be here with you today. In the interest of time, and the hour is late, I really only have one line item in the amended budget to bring to your attention, and I'd be happy to discuss any others at another time or today if necessary. But I'd like to go to line 319.1, the dual enrollment program. As we have been studying the dual enrollment program pursuant to Senate Resolution 175 over the past year, we have seen a significant uptick in the utilization of the dual enrollment program in this academic year. So the governor's recommendation of $12.3 million to be added to the budget, we believe will be fully consumed by the end of this academic year. And the House has also agreed to that $12.3 million addition to our amended budget. Our other programs have small tweaks, some pursuant to disregards in the original budget, but this is the primary item that of impact in our amended fiscal year budget. And if the chairman would like, I do have some Georgia Match information that I'd be happy to share with you.
Please.
I shared this with the Commissioner Dozier, and he can speak more specifically, but I wanted to talk about how 132,612 letters went out to Georgia high school seniors starting in October. And so we've been 4 months into the program. In those 4 months, of the Georgia Match institutions that are participating in TCSG and USG, we've had just shy of 11,000 students claim their spot at an institution through our portal on Georgia Futures. However, we've had over almost 38,000 students actually complete an application at the institutions that are participating in Georgia Match.
Say that again.
38,000 students have actually applied to college in the first 4 months of this program. Those are individual students at the participating match institutions, and that does not include the University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, and Georgia College and State University. So we are seeing a tremendous response from this outreach that has truly provided our high school seniors a roadmap of where there's opportunity for them to learn here in the state of Georgia, and we're very proud to be partnering with our education partners on this effort.
So that match program, it actually suggested which schools, that it actually matched the student with the school.
It
gave them, what, 2 or 3 choices?
Oh, no, sir. It indicated that they were eligible to attend every technical college school in the state.
Right.
But it also told them which ones in the university system. Generally, most students received at least 26 institutions listed on their match letter, some up to over 50.
Wow.
So truly a significant game changer in allowing our high school seniors to know that we've got a place for them to learn. We've got the Welcome Mat open. USG and TCSG are responding immediately to requests for information. And we're very proud to see that of this number already, so many have taken advantage of it.
If you had to say why it worked, why that has worked, why would you think why this has worked? And before the letters went out, it didn't work?
Well, students had to do their own research, and it can be daunting to be thinking about 50-plus institutions that they might have to sift through just here in our public institutions in Georgia. But if you add our private institutions that are also participating in financial aid, but they would have to individually research each potential opportunity. We put before them all of the schools that they academically could succeed in. And so they've been able to very quickly do their shopping and then find where they want to attain their higher education.
So could you speak a little bit to the dual enrollment and the HOPE utilization?
Certainly. In both the dual enrollment, as I mentioned, we've seen significant utilization growth in this current academic year at FY24. The HOPE programs are growing pretty dramatically as well. We're excited that the 100% HOPE award funding in FY 2024 has been, using additional dollars, but that was the goal that we were looking for. We were looking for increased enrollment and increased credential attainment. So truly, this is moving the needle on students pursuing higher education, and we're guiding them in that direction for our upcoming high school graduating class.
So have y'all done some projections on, with all these additional students coming into the system, how that's going to affect HOPE and the availability to keep HOPE going at the level it's going?
Absolutely, sir. That's why you will see that there's some appropriation requests in the upcoming FY 2025 budget to make sure that we have plenty of money to fulfill every student's dream of hope and credential attainment.
So are we supposed to encourage more people to do scratch-offs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's keep that pipeline flowing and fill up those lottery coffers.
Thank you.
I thought they were all filled up and running over.
Yeah.
Those
Anybody else got any questions? No. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you
for
very
your
much.
time. Non-public post-secondary education. Here we go. How you doing, sir?
Doing fine.
Good. And tell us what line number we're working off of.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for taking the time to hear from us today. For all those folks that say that the folks in the Senate don't work, I can attest to at least the folks here work. Yes.
Exactly.
I'm Kirk Shook. I'm the Executive Director of the Non-Public Post-Secondary Education Commission. We regulate all the private colleges and all the private post-secondary training in the state, well over 350 schools at this point. I will, just like Lynn, I'll focus on just one line item, 335.2. That's the one increase in funding here for our online database system that are used in the application processing of any of these private post-secondary institutions. And so the goal of this, there's some upgrades that we want to make to help make the system more user-friendly for the public, to help increase the productivity and efficiency of our staff through some of these improvements, and for something we're excited about rolling out to see how we can help in the workforce arena, the ability to accelerate initial authorization applications for high demand workforce needs programs. So that's something that we're going to begin to work on and hopefully be able to help the public's piece some of this together with our workforce needs. So there's a total of 15 different upgrades we can make with that money that's in this recommendation. So that's it, but I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions? Well, you won the prize so far.
Great.
Quickest.
I like that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, have a good one.
There he comes. Come on up, sir. Technical College System of Georgia. Providing jobs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad to be here. Thank you guys for giving us the chance to present our budget to you. We're very proud your technical college system is in a healthy state right now. We've, as you'll see in the big budget when we get to it, we were blessed last year with a 3% growth in enrollment. And currently, this past fall, we were right at 10%. And this current spring, obviously, it's too early to tell. We're pretty close to 10% again for spring. So very, very proud of where our system is, and that has a lot to do with the support that this body has given the technical college system. When you're looking at your amended budget, obviously through each of our 6 programs, we have the pay raise. That total amount, I won't bring you to that item, but that total amount for the pay raise was $6.7 million spread across all 6 programs. The first item that we have that is unique from the pay raise is under our Quick Start program. That is item 341.2. And I'll give you a second, Mr. Chairman, make sure I'm 341.2.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, ribbon training.
Yes, sir. And that is a $10.25 million ad for the Rivian Training Facility. Just a reminder, last year this body funded the total of $56.25 million for the Hyundai Training Facility, and as the budget ended, the Rivian Training Facility got cut back $10.25 million. So last year this body funded $46 million. This $10.25 fully funds that Rivian Training Facility at the same level as that Hyundai Training Facility last year. The next item is...
that's going to be on the site also? Will that be on the site? Or
yes, sir.
Okay.
It'll be on the site. We actually did the groundbreaking today for the Hyundai Training Facility. And we'll be doing a groundbreaking for this facility for Rivian there at the Stanton Springs location sometime in March. So that'll be about the timing for the groundbreaking for this one.
Cool. Very good.
Yep. The next item is right below that, 341.3, and it's to increase funds to meet existing training obligations for Quick Start. What that is just the great opportunity this state has and all the EDA, the economic development agreements that have come across to help industries that have relocated. As you know, we've had over 25,000 new jobs that were assisted last year. And if you look at the last 3 years, over 50-something thousand jobs that have been assisted by Quick Start. The only new monies that have gone to that program is the money that this body put in for Hyundai and for Rivian. This $4.7 million will basically cover about a little over $2 million for lease space, specifically in the area of SK On and Hanwha Q cells. Just to give you an idea of the size of those two entities, that's about 7,000 new jobs in those two specific companies that are coming to that Bartow area. And so a little bit of half of this will go toward the lease to actually provide the training for those companies. The remaining amount of that will provide curriculum developers, trainers, and a multitude of training assets for all the companies that are expanding in Georgia, as well as those companies I just mentioned. The next item is a couple of pages over in the technical education program. The first item is obviously the pay raise, but the second item that you see under technical education is 342.2, and that is to reduce funds to align the budget with expenditures. That's a $1.1 million reduction. Just a reminder of what this is. Last year, this body put in $1.1 million for an item called Tools for Success. What that item was to provide students when they graduated from technical college the tools they needed to go to work, meaning tools to be a mechanic, a stethoscope to be a nurse. It was deemed at the end of the process, and this money was one of the disregards, but it was deemed that was a gratuity and we could not move forward with that. So this is a removal of that $1.1 million.
You're just trying to make a point, aren't you?
Huh?
You're just trying to make a point.
No, I really wasn't. I was just explaining what it was. It is 342.2.
No, because I think a lot of those people, as they go away, they do have to buy their tools.
Yes, sir.
They do.
Yes,
and
sir.
some of them, if they go to work for I would think if they go to work for like a car dealership, they probably got some of their tools furnished. So
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I was really kind of, you didn't think it was funny at all, and I apologize.
I really was. I was just explaining what it was. The next item is 342.3, right below that item. And this one we're very, very excited about and very thankful to see it in here. And it's $19.5 million. It's to basically create a workforce accelerator. It's renovating 3 locations across our system, one at our Chat Tech campus in Ackworth, one on our Central Tech campus in Milledgeville, and the third one at our West Georgia campus in LaGrange. So basically it's $6.5 million for each of those locations, split up about $3 million for renovation and $3.5 million for equipment. This will be basically focused on advanced manufacturing, e-mobility, hydrogen, and industrial mechatronics. So very excited. That's a big need we have across this state as you see the new companies coming in.
Right.
The next item is right below it at 342.4. It's to increase funds for one-time funding for startup equipment for 22 additional campus police officers. This is an item the House added in. You'll see in the big budget, the governor's recommendation has a yes by this item. You'll see $1.8 million recommended for the 22 officers in the big budget. This is the equipment funding that was put in for a vehicle, vest, uniform, and weapon.
For those 22.
For those 22 officers, yes, ma'am.
So what size vehicle is that? What type of vehicle is it?
We're going to have to look and see what that'll get. When you look at it, it's right at a $28,000 vehicle when you take away the equipment.
That's what I was trying.
I'm sure there's something we can find. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good. I was just wondering, looking at the quick math, it's just pretty small. But the camp, those are basically, do those officers have any jurisdiction outside the campus?
So we have 500 feet outside the campus. We do have a piece of legislation that's before you for this session that we're trying to extend it to match USG's jurisdiction, and I'm blank on if that's 500 yards. Thank you. I was blank on how far we were trying to expand it.
So TCSG is 500 feet or 500 yards?
Today we have the feet.
Feet?
We're trying to match what USG has to the 500 yards.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I remember we dealt with that 500 yard thing last year.
Well, not for us, but
yeah. Well, I know not for y'all.
Yeah,
I'm talking about for
yeah,
you. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yep. The next item is under workforce development. That's the next program. So if you flip a page, you should see that. And the first item is outside the pay raise. It's 343.2. It's a $10,000 item for startup cost for two positions that you'll see in the big budget related to healthcare partners across the state. This also was an item that was took up last year, and the money's being put in this year to actually start up two folks, which is a recommendation from the governor's healthcare workforce task force to go out and see what we're actually missing. What's the gap analysis across the state when it comes to healthcare? And those two positions be dedicated to going around and making recommendations back to us and to this body for future needs and initiatives. And Mr. Chairman, that's all the items in the supplemental budget, other than we do have two items that are funded in GISFIC, as USG brought up. Those two items, just for your awareness, is a CDL training facility, not facility, but
Right.
pad, and it's
Right.
at Augusta Tech at $5.5 million.
Right.
And then I'm very thankful the governor included an additional college and career academy at $3 million. Just as a reminder, last year, one college and career academy was approved. In the past, we've seen 2 to 3. So very, very thankful to see that there's another one added into here. We do not have the location today. We did go through the actual awarding process for the one. Walker County received that one, and Gilmer County was the one behind it. So it'd be my intentions that if this money stayed in the supplemental, that would go to Gilmer County based on that past review.
How many college and career academies are there, roughly?
56.
56?
Yes, sir.
Out of 159 counties? Or okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And we each year continue to grow. It's a great partnership when you look. Each one of those is unique to the area depending
Right.
on what those local partnerships are, and it really is making a difference across our state.
And some of them, I guess, like in states where they actually don't have a college and career academy, but they got what's called a pathway to progress, and it's located inside the high schools.
So we've got them all different ways. We've got some that are on high school campuses. We have some that are on our campuses. We have some that are in the same geographical location. So it really is unique to the community.
Great. Well, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody left in the room?
Okay.
GRA. New kid on the block, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Good late afternoon to members of the committee. My name is Tim Denning. I'm the president and CEO of Georgia Research Alliance. I've had the opportunity to meet some of you in my previous role at Georgia State University, where I was for a decade, and I look very forward to working with those of you who I've not met before. So I'm pleased to briefly speak about GRA's budget request, and I'd like to just point out two things at the outset. One is the alignment with USG's strategic plan of increasing economic competitiveness and by leveraging research engagement across the USG. And as we have heard recently from the Chancellor, our national competitiveness with regards to R&D. The state of Georgia is currently number 8 in the nation in R&D, and we have moved up from the number 12 position just back in 2016. So we're rapidly increasing, and investment in research is certainly supporting this. So we're confident that the new investments I'll be discussing right now can help Georgia continue to leverage research to drive national competitiveness, economic development, and workforce development.
281.2.
Yes, so in the tracking document 281.2, we heard recently, just earlier today, from Tracy Cook referencing the $9.25 million for GRA in the House ad. And so what I'd like to do is just highlight the strategic initiatives, investments with regards to those. So the first will support Georgia's burgeoning automotive and electric vehicle battery industry. This is for a strategic request of $6 million for 8 endowed chairs to recruit top-tier researchers to Georgia Tech in the areas of engineering, energy engineering, artificial intelligence, and intelligent systems to help speed the development of next-generation batteries and other design and manufacturing technologies that are related. The next investment will support the health and well-being of Georgia's aging population. Georgia is currently number 6 in the number of citizens at age 65 and over. So advances in understanding aging-related diseases and disorders. Some of these include cardiovascular disease, stroke, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, brain health-related aging, with the aim of finding new treatments, therapies, and cures to not just increase lifespan, but also the health span. This strategic request is $3 million for 4 endowed chairs to recruit top-tier researchers to Augusta University. And the last investment to speak about today is to support the broiler chicken production industry, which Georgia leads the nation in. And this is to bring together 2 existing cutting-edge devices that help to support chicken health and welfare. One is an audio device that listens to chickens, and based upon the audio, you can learn amazing things about whether they are stressed, whether there's intruders and things like this. So one's an audio device. Another is a video device, which again can have real-time monitoring of chickens. And so the goal here with this initiative is to bring together these 2 independent devices. One which was emerged from Georgia Tech, the other emerged from University of Georgia, to create a single device, that can both listen and look at the chickens in real time to help support our Georgia farmers. So I would like to just mention that there was also reference that the final version of the House amended budget included $5 million in capital projects funds, which originally were designated for the FY25 budget. We appreciate the House forward funding these capital project funds. These are used for supporting lab-related infrastructure across the universities. And I will stop with that. I'd be happy to answer any questions for either the House amended budget or the governor's.
I think the expression on Senator Kirkpatrick's face when you mentioned about talking to chickens warrants a question. Okay. Senator Sims.
I was trying to. Where?
Would you pull your microphone?
Section? Which section?
281.2.
281.2.
On the Capitol, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Oh, the capital, yeah.
It was 2, say that again for me.
The original, the GRA is 281.2.
367.34.
281.
367.34. So it would not be in here.
And you spoke a lot about, may I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry. Short question.
Yes, ma'am.
You spoke a lot about research and sometimes within the university system, is that right?
Correct.
Do you ever, and you mentioned, or do you work mainly within the research universities, or do you tend to use smaller universities, colleges and universities that have worthwhile programs? Because we don't want you to waste any money. We want you to be held accountable for everything. And we always look for return on investment. But do you engage in the smaller universities?
Thank you for that question. That's a great one. For the endowed chairs, those are at the large research institutions, as you might imagine.
And those are the ones that you only spend time working with.
No, those are where the endowed chairs are existing, but what we do is support the overall research and entrepreneurship ecosystem. So when we are trying to facilitate and nurture and cultivate innovation and patents, things like this, we can work with any university and help to pull that technology forward in terms of company creation, et cetera. You don't have to be an R1, you don't have to be a public university for that. But these endowed chairs are existing in the large research universities.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it. And you've been at this position.
I'm not yet in triple digits, less than just 3 months right now. So thank you for being gentle.
Okay. I was going to say no.
Quarter of a year, that's right.
And unless somebody has some questions, that concludes our meeting. Thank y'all. Y'all have a great evening.
Mr. Chairman, hope you have a relaxing evening.
I knew you'd.
That's funny.
Yeah.